Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for the next session of Fabric Data Days. My name is Anna. I'll be your producer for this session. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our moderators to answer live. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our presenters for today. Thank you both for joining.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to So You Want to Be an Analytics Engineer. We will jump right in. Thank you so much, Anna, for that introduction and the code of conduct. And we will start with Shabnam with an introduction.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. I'm Shabnam Watson. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, and I help companies with their data and AI projects. I've worked with Microsoft data products for 20 years, and for the most recent years, I've been focused on Power BI, and then most recently on Microsoft Fabric. Speaking about Microsoft Fabric and Power BI, I'm also co-authoring a book on analytics engineering with Microsoft Fabric and Power BI, which is a great timing. And I'm so happy to be here today in this session, talking to you about it with Stephanie, of course. So Stephanie, back to you.
Thank you so much, Shabnam. I'm so happy to be here with you today. My name is Stephanie Bruno. I'm also a data platform MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer. I am an independent consultant and trainer for mainly Fabric and Power BI. Like Shabnam, I've got about 20 years of experience in this field and have been mainly focusing on Fabric and Power BI in the past few years. And I am joining you today from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where it's very, very cold. So next up, let's meet our moderators. We are so lucky to have 3 experts today who are going to be very happy to answer all of your questions about Fabric in the chat. We've got Anupama, Philippa, and Chris. So feel free to make this very interactive. Ask them all of your burning technical questions, and they'll be happy to answer them for you. So with that, let's learn a little bit more about what we're all here for. We're here for Fabric Data Days, which is 50 days of live learning, certification prep, vouchers. I know a lot of you are probably here for the vouchers, data viz contests, community connection, and more. So there's a lot to be part of with this Fabric Data Days. So just make sure you look at this link here, this aka.ms/Fabric Data Days. The organizers will put lots of links in the chat for you throughout the hour together, but when in doubt, visit aka.ms/Fabric Data Days for all of the information. So we'll start with just what we can expect. We've got a Fabric Data Days. This is a little bit of the schedule. So earlier today, there was a Get Certified from Azure Data Engineer to Fabric Data Engineer. And what we've got now is, so you want to be an analytics engineer. Next up tomorrow is going to be leveling up your analytics skills with the DP600. So that's very relevant to what we're talking about today. We'll just touch on that a little bit today, but you can learn a lot more about that tomorrow. And you can see the rest of the upcoming events on the schedule, but this is just a little bit of the schedule. There's even more. So make sure you go to these links below to see more detail on what you can experience. We've also got contests and challenges. This is a great way to both get practice and get involved with the community. It's a good resource for learning and for inspiration. So you can see, for example, there's a contest on data viz. There's a contest for students. There's a contest for notebooks. So it's really a great way to, even if you don't want to enter anything into the contests, it's a great source to just at least check out. You know, you can learn a lot from these contests and challenges.
Did you run the Data Viz challenge or the World Championship in FabCon, the last FabCon?
The last FabCon, yes, in Vienna. Right. So there was the DataViz World Champs, which was really, really exciting to be part of. It was
Mhm.
amazing to see what people could build. My mind was blown with that one. And I know there's a lot of that going on too. So you can actually see some of the interviews with the people that were the finalists in that. So highly encourage you to see that. And also, just one note, these contests are a great way to get involved in the community. Shabnam and I have known each other now, I don't even know how many years, 5 years or more, because we bumped into each other at an event. And, it's a great way to
I was going to
meet
say
people who
more
are into
like
what you're into.
closer to 20, maybe. It wasn't
Maybe.
it wasn't past Summit. Actually, we met through the community. We met at past SQL conference in Seattle a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. So I love being part of this community because I get to meet and learn from people like Shabnam. So
Same
definitely
here.
jump into these contests and challenges. We also have some certification challenges. And here you go for these links for your discount vouchers. So there are skills challenges with the Learn modules. You can also check out if you have a local user group because a lot of them are hosting study groups for the DP600 and the DP700. And so just again, join your community. If there's a local one, you're in luck, but there's a lot of virtual communities too. So you can definitely participate in that. Um, you can get these discount vouchers for the DP 700 and 600. Those are 100% discount. And the PL 300 and DP 900 have a 50% discount. So again, we've got these great links here. These should all be in the chat for you. So this is how you can go and you can learn more about what you need to do to snag yourself one of these vouchers. And if I went through that too quickly, here's this great big QR code that you can grab. So you can we'll just leave this on the screen for just a second. This is a great opportunity to be able to get yourself certified for free. So these certifications can be really helpful for a lot of reasons, such as, it just looks good on your resume, right? It's a way to show off that you know what you're doing. It also, for me, I like it because it makes me learn parts of Fabric that maybe I haven't had the opportunity to work on in my day-to-day job. So it's also a great learning experience, and especially for free,
Definitely.
right? Yeah. Shabnam, did you have any? I think you had a whole great laundry list of good reasons to get certified. I'm going to put you on the spot.
The ones that you said, I think mostly it's a great way to learn the product. It gives you some, incentives to, finish it at a certain time, especially if you're going to take advantage of the free vouchers to take the exam. It's always good to give yourself a timeline to work on something. And then the certification itself is really helpful to give you a good idea of the product end to end. And like Stephanie said, you may not be using some parts of it in your day-to-day life, even if you're using it. So this helps fill those gaps for you. So in that way, it was super helpful for me when I took either one of the exams.
I totally agree. And another way to learn are these free instructor-led hands-on workshops. So there is Fabric Analyst in a day. You can see this link here, next FIAD, and Real-Time Intelligence in a day. And here's just a quick plug. You have a lot of these opportunities coming up. Many are virtual. And on January 13th specifically, Shabnam and I are going to be delivering one together. So we do have a link tinyurl.com FIAD Jan 13. So hopefully that's getting in the chat. But if you want to join Shabnam and myself for an all-day free Fabric Analyst in a day, you can register there, or you can do it sooner if you want to. Okay, so what are we here for? We are here because you want to be an analytics engineer. So this is the specific content for today, right? We're going to learn a lot about the different roles. You don't have to come from a specific background to be able to do this, right? So you can come to this from many, many different career paths. No two journeys look alike. So we're going to learn all about how you can take the skills that you already have and use those and propel yourself into an analytics engineer. We will also give some practical guidance on how you can build this experience and get these skills. So this, the goal isn't to give you this single roadmap. There is no one path to do this. We're just going to learn about all of us and where we've come from and how we've landed here today. And we're going to show you that it doesn't matter what your background is. You can gain these skills, this knowledge, this community, and you can be an analytics engineer as well. So specifically, what we're going to cover is what even is this? What is an analytics engineer? And it's really funny because Shopnam and I have had long conversations about this. It's not super clear, right? It's fuzzy. There's overlap with other roles as well. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the skills that matter to become an analytics engineer, specifically working in Fabric for this. How you can get started if you're new at this, and what are some career paths and some next steps that you can do to get there. So we're going to go through all of this, and by the end, you should have a clear understanding of what an analytics engineer is and why the role is so important in the Fabric era, and then how you can start building toward it. So just a reminder, this, for those of us who are here right now together, live, you can ask your questions in the chat, and you have a bunch of people that are experts in this field, and they can answer your questions for you. So let's just get started by getting to know each other a little bit. And if you don't mind, let us know in the chat what your current role is, because we're going to see that we're coming from this from all different paths. So we would love to just hear a little bit more about who you are and where you're coming from. And so we can talk about that a little bit in the comments. And with that, then I'm going to turn it over to Shabnam to talk about what is this analytics engineer.
Let's wonder what is. I'm trying to do the same thing that the character is doing. What is an analytics engineer? So it's one of the terms that has become popular in recent years. I think so many of us may have been doing this type of job before it was called an analytics engineer. So what the literature says what it is that it's someone who bridges the gap between the super technical folks that bring in data from outside resources and then gets that data, models it, and makes it reusable and understandable by business people so that they can create reports from it. So by definition, it's a role that sits between the technical folks at a company and the business folks. So that's the easiest definition that I can give. And now, if that sounds vague, it's because it is vague. So let's dig in and talk about it and see what that is. So in recent years, or probably now more than recent years, so I would say for a decade, the data teams have been evolving, but in organizations, but there's still these silos that needs to be broken down. So there's still lots of silos in the companies, regardless of what everybody wants the landscape to be. So business on one side needs to have clean data, reliable data. And then on the other side, you need to have somebody who's technical enough to be able to work with whoever is bringing the data in and then take it and make it presentable in a form that includes the business rules, and it can grow with the company, and then give that to the report developers or the analysts. So the role of the analytics engineer itself has been evolving over the last decade or so. So when I think about an analytics engineer, for example, from myself, I've been really working in this role in recent years because I've been working with projects that are really big projects. So they have dedicated data transformation teams that they bring data from their sources and they land it somewhere. And then they have dedicated analysts that work with business to create certain reports. Where I've been sitting in the data modeling space, creating those semantic models and then creating the star schemas and translating the business requirements that the analysts give me into metrics that are reusable. So with that, if you want to look at the landscape of roles in the data ecosystem, these are some of the key roles. Now, this doesn't include every single role that's out there. So, for example, the architect role is missing from here. There's always a data architecture that oversees the whole process. Hopefully that role isn't here. But as you can see, it's sitting between the source data and the business people. It's a person who collaborates across many different teams. So it needs to be a technical person and also somewhat business savvy. So with that said, now what does an analytics engineer do if you want to dig in a little bit more? So what are the core responsibilities? It's the modeling the data, so building clean, reliable tables and relationships. Again, this doesn't mean it's the person who's doing the data ingestion. That would be a different role. That would be a data engineer. But it's the person who starts from the point where the data engineer has finished their job and then continues from there, turning data, messy source data that's raw in its form, and then taking it through maybe the medallion layers and promoting it, and then creating reusable models and metrics for everybody else to use.
Just to add on to that, I kind of feel like it also depends on your organization where you are. If you're in a
Absolutely.
smaller organization, you might be the data engineer, the analytics engineer, and the data analyst and the visual design. You might be all of those. And I also think that in different organizations, there's some overlap, between the data engineer and the analytics engineer. So it's not this hard and fast line. It's really a little bit squishier than that. And you'll find that different organizations will have the different roles have more or less overlap.
Yes. So I see Shannon saying it's a data unicorn. You have to be. Yes. So and also that's correct. So anybody who's we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So for those who are working from Power BI in Power BI space, Fabric is the natural progression to take your skills and then take it to the enterprise level. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So as far as the skills, so what are the skills that we expect a data an analytics engineer to have? The way that Microsoft has created these roles and corresponding certifications, it has been by doing a lot of research with Microsoft partners, with customers, and organizations to see how Microsoft can create these certifications that really apply to those roles' skills so that they're relevant. So you take this certification, it's actually going to help you become a better data analyst or analytics engineer or data engineer. And so what you see here is that we have 3 exams that are relevant to this space. A PL300 is mostly Power BI, is for data analysts. And then from there, when you want to grow into the analytics engineer, that's when you take DP600. And of course, there is also DP700. And DP700 is for the data engineers. Those are the ones who are going to do the some of data ingestion and work with PySpark that the analytics engineers mostly do not. So
I think also with the Power BI, the PL300, I was looking at the skills measured for that one, and I feel like you could get away with pretty much spending most of your time in Power BI desktop. Other than the admin piece of that, you could learn what you need to do for the PL300 mainly in desktop, not fully, but mainly. Whereas the DP600, you can't. You definitely need to be within Fabric for that. What do you think about that kind of differentiator?
That's actually exactly what I was gonna say in the next slide. So you made my life easier.
Sorry about that.
No, that's perfect. So when you actually look at the DP600, when you look at the categories, okay, so one of the first categories is maintaining a data analytics solution. So what does that mean? That means thinking about the things that you just said. It's about adding governance and monitoring and security and things that you do in the service versus in Power BI desktop. So all those workspace roles and things like that, they're all in the maintain a data analytics solution. So that's the natural progression to go to DP600 from PL300. Whereas some of the third category, which is implementing and managing semantic models, the implementing part of it specifically, that part is going to have an overlap with PL300, because those are the things that you can do in Power BI Desktop as far as creating a model, relationships, cardinality, calculations, things like that. So
Why do I
great
see
question.
KQL on this list, Shabnam?
So it's at the bottom. Great question. It's at the bottom on the list of languages that you need to know. So KQL, I think so for everybody, so KQL originally was not in this certification. So if you took this certification a long time ago, you did not have KQL. You instead had PySpark. Since then, PySpark has moved to DP700, but has been replaced with KQL. So in here, KQL would be in, I would say, preparing data. I think it falls under the preparing data. So these are just very high level categories. And so if you want to learn more about DP600, the exact skills that go into each category, the best place to start is Microsoft Learn. And what you want to do is you want to go to Microsoft Learn and then type in DP600 study guide. That study guide is your guide that you need for the whole, to prepare for the exam and know exactly what to read, what's included, and it will keep you on track. So I think KQL is in the preparing data because you would be querying data with it. Does that make sense?
And that's not something that's going to be on the PL300, right? Because you're not really
correct.
so much in desktop, for example.
Yes, PL300 does not have, as far as I know, it doesn't have SQL. It doesn't have SQL and doesn't have, obviously, KQL. It's purely Power BI.
Right, and I think that's an important distinction because, yes, as the analytics engineer, SQL is really important. You need to be able to query your data wherever it is,
Yes.
not just pull it in with Power Query, right?
Yep, SQL continues to be, I call it the king of analytics, and I think it will stay for a long time, I hope. Although I have to say, my second favorite language is KQL because of its simplicity and its power. It's almost, for me, it rivals SQL. Okay. So all right. So how do you build your analytics engineer skills? And like Stephanie said earlier, there's no one right way to do things or to learn this stuff. So we're curious to know, for all of you who are live with us right now, what's your favorite learning method? Like, well, how do you learn? Like, Stephanie, what's your favorite learning method? Do you like watching training videos, or do you read? How do you learn?
No, it's funny because I'll read or I'll watch a video and I'll think, oh yeah, I get it. But if I then try to do it, I won't. It's like I have to get my hands into it. So having an actual lab to go through and click and understand and make mistakes and come back, that's really the best way for me to learn. How about you?
Yeah, I think for me, watching the training videos, they help me a lot. And then I will go and read a little bit about it. And then obviously trying things will solidify the learning in my head. So it's a combination of them. And also I noticed that the method that you learn may also shift throughout your career. So just because you were really good at learning by reading, it may not be the same when you advance in your career. So I would say explore all different options and see which one works for you. And definitely when it comes to passing the certifications, you do want to have some hands-on experience, even if it's within the a trial capacity or a lab environment, I highly recommend you have some hands-on practice, because the purpose of the certification is not just for you to pass the test and put it on your resume that you passed the certification. Hopefully it's for you to actually learn some of the material.
Yeah, and those hands-on activities that are so important for my learning, I really appreciate that on Microsoft Learn. There are a lot of those where you can, you can jump in and there are these lab environments. It's not everywhere, but it's in a lot of it, and that helps me a lot. Just because it's so funny how much I think I know something, and then if I try it, I'm like, wait, what was that? Where was I supposed to click? What does this mean? So I need to just get in there and break things to learn it.
Yeah, it always looks easy when someone else is doing stuff. And
Yes.
you're like, oh, that's not that hard. I can do it. And then when I try it, it's really hard. But yeah, so repetition makes things easier. Okay.
Yeah. If only I would have learned that a long time ago.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about working in Microsoft Fabric when it comes to an analytics engineer and preparing for DP600. So just a quick recap of Microsoft Fabric. Microsoft Fabric is an end-to-end analytics and AI platform in a software as a service format, meaning that it's backed by Microsoft's cloud, and you don't install anything, you don't configure any services. So for example, if you're coming from an Azure background, you're maybe used to Azure Databricks or Azure SQL DB. This is entirely different. So this is very close to what Power BI is, and actually it has inherited Power BI's foundation as far as the workspace model, the capacity model, and the security. So you have all of these tools in the cloud that you can do data projects, data and AI projects with. So you have Data Factory, which is the green icon here, to do ETL or ELT in the cloud. And then you have the blue icon, which is called Analytics here. That's the data warehouse, data lakehouse. That's where data engineering goes. That's where you have access to these massively parallel processing engines that you can use for your analytics. This is where you get your lakehouse and warehouse. And then we have also the purple icon, databases, which supports the OLTP workloads. So the analytics workloads are for what's called OLAP workloads. Those are workloads that are for analytics. So these are queries like, they're really good at answering queries like, give me the sales by store for the last 10 years, by region. So those are analytics queries, compared to OLTP workloads, where they're read and write heavy applications, transactional systems like point of sale systems or customer relationship management systems. So now we have the OLTP support with the arrival of databases also in Fabric. The next workload in Fabric is real-time intelligence. This is for handling streaming data. So instead of landing the data and then promoting it through layers, and as it goes through layers, you apply transformations. This is for cases where you're working with data in real time and near real time at high volumes, and it's streaming, and you want to apply transformations on the fly as it's arriving. So it's a really powerful component of Microsoft Fabric. And then we have Power BI, which is for creating semantic models and analytics and reporting. I think Power BI just turned 10 years, so hopefully most of you have used Power BI. And then the last two icons that you see there, they're for industry solutions and partner workloads. So these are pre-built solutions either by Microsoft or third parties that are available in Microsoft Fabric's portal when you go to the portal. So Stephanie, I think that was did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything?
Just that, Fabric uses the open standards like Parquet, Delta,
Yes.
Spark, T-SQL, Python. So it's not like you're just learning Fabric when you're learning these skills. These skills do transfer to other platforms as well.
That is absolutely true. So when I was actually I was learning PySpark for DP600 before it left that exam. The PySpark that I was learning, I was also using it at work in Databricks in the notebooks. So because a lot of along the same lines, because the foundation of Microsoft Fabric, which we don't have on this slide, is OneLake, and everything in OneLake is in an open source data format called Delta Parquet. That means that all of these engines can write to it and all of these engines can read from it. But not only that, you also are not locked into Microsoft. So hopefully you will stay with Microsoft, but you're not vendor locked. You can now have a lot of other tools interact with your data. So your data stays in the same place and it's an open source format. So all the other engines who can understand Delta Parquet can also talk to it, which is a huge benefit over previous systems where once you put your data, for example, in SQL Server on-prem, SQL Server on-prem was the only tool who could understand it. So great reminder to talk about OneLake. All right. So now for the DP600, you will be tested on certain components of Microsoft Fabric. So by the way, Microsoft Fabric, as you can see, has huge capabilities. Nobody can be expert in all of these areas. And if you're just getting started, don't let all of the icons overwhelm you. You can, to do a project, you can be choosing just Power BI and Data Factory, for example, and the databases, or a couple other components. You don't have to know all of the tools and use all of them. So for DP600, you will be tested on Data Factory with the pipelines and data flows. From the analytics category, you will be tested with SQL. So with the warehouse, you need to know SQL. With the SQL analytics endpoint of the Lakehouse, you need to know things you can do with SQL. And then with real-time intelligence is the KQL component of it, that in DP600, you need to be able to write KQL queries. By the way, the queries that you write, when I say write queries in the exam, you don't have to write from scratch. They're always a drop down or a drag and drop kind of question. And then Power BI. So you need to know DAX for DP600. So for those of you who are coming from Power BI background, you should find this exam easier to take because you already know DAX.
The Data Factory component, because you already know Power Query. So
exactly,
you're really just a data flow Gen 2 is Power Query. So that's part of what you're going to have in Data Factory. So if you are coming from that Power BI background, it is a little less overwhelming.
Yes, that's true. So when you're this session is not about preparing for the exam, but I just want to throw this out there that because there are 3 different categories and 3 different languages. So in the exam, so if you know SQL and DAX, then maybe you can study KQL less or rely on KQL less. But if you know SQL and KQL really well, then you may want to not study DAX like in depth for the purpose of passing the exam. So it's really nice that there's 3 different languages in there, and you can focus on 2 out of 3 for passing the exam. So Stephanie, what are your favorite languages out of the 3?
You have been singing the praises of KQL for a long time. I know you're a convert.
Yes.
I don't know a lot of people that would say DAX is their favorite, and I am also not one of them. I have a love-hate relationship with DAX.
Yeah, I like I like KQL. The reason I say KQL is also specifically for the exam. Like if you are new to DAX and KQL and you want to learn one to pass the exam, I would say 100% KQL because KQL is straightforward. So if you look up the syntax, you can answer the question. Whereas with DAX, there's the whole, context and all that stuff that makes it complex. So, all right.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So, all right. So now I think we're going to go back to you, Stephanie, and you're going to tell us, all right, how do we get started? How do we get started to gain some of these skills?
Right. Excellent. So let's talk about how we can get started. So we just talked about what is the engineer. So hopefully we all have a rough idea. Again, it's a little bit squishy, but we know what the analytics engineer roughly is, and we know what are some skills that are required. So what can we do? I think I've actually seen a lot of questions in the chat about, okay, so I get it, but now what can I do? So it's about taking small practical steps. So we need to access the core tools. We don't have to get everything at once, but we do need the core tools. A good idea is to maybe pick a small project, work through it end to end, even if it's just with sample data. And then really, instead of focusing on the specific tools, you want to focus on understanding the workflow. So from collecting and cleaning data to modeling it, it's that mindset that transfers across platforms. So, you think about using tutorials, sample projects, and again, community resources. I'm just going to make a plug for that one more time. The community is just the best place to learn. So the key is not mastering everything immediately. It's experimenting, making mistakes, figuring things out, problem solving, and learning the process. So first up, I would say start with Microsoft Learn. I think we mentioned it a little bit. There are a lot of tutorials and learning modules, and some of them even have kind of like a lab environment, so you can actually get hands-on with it. So you can complete these paths. Again, focus on a workflow because this is what you're going to need to understand in this role. It's not just about the specific button clicks. It's about understanding how am I going to get the data? What do I have to do to transform it? How should I be modeling this for what my end users need to see? Um, so start with Microsoft Learn. These learning paths are just fantastic. They help a lot. So pick a few that match. You don't necessarily have to do everything in the order that's presented to you. So pick a few that match what you're trying to learn. So if you're interested in the analytics engineering, look for data preparation, modeling, Power BI. So do the exercises. You want to learn by doing in a guided way. Next up, how can you get hands-on in Fabric? So ideally, you're going to have an environment. Maybe you can set up a trial where you can start building. So you're going to set up that trial account. Account's the wrong word, but you'll set up a Fabric trial, jump in there and just start building things. But some people may not have that ability, right? Maybe your work isn't allowing you to set up a trial. Maybe you don't have a work account. So again, you can attend one of these Fabric Analyst in a Day trainings. So it is completely free. Many of them are virtual. The one that Shabnam and I are doing again on January 13, and you can see the link on here, I think. This is virtual, and it does give you an environment. So it gives you a virtual machine that you can just get into and start building. So you don't actually have to have Fabric on your own. You don't have to have an account to be able to use this. So this is a great way if you don't have access to actually get in there and get hands-on.
And
So
some people take more than one of them. So you can take the same one a few times. That way
yep.
you will get access to the environment a few times and get some hands-on practice.
Yeah, that's a good point. We always like having people in there. We always like helping people learn. So don't be shy. Feel free to join one. And there's also the real time in a day. So feel free to join one, both, whatever works for you. Okay, so now let's say you've gotten in, you have access. You can work on something, right? You've got an environment. So maybe the first thing is just pick a project, right? So start small because the idea is that you want to understand the flow. So you'll have a data source or multiple data sources. It's not going to be exactly how you need it to consume in Power BI. So this is where your transformation is going to come in. Maybe you're going to build some shortcuts. Maybe you're going to do some data flows. And then you might even decide that you want to do some notebooks with some PySpark, even though that's not necessarily part of the DP600 exam. I was surprised to find out how much I love notebooks and PySpark. Coming from SQL and DAX, now I love notebooks and PySpark just because I started building things with it and I thought it was really cool. So this is what you want to do. You want to find what you're interested in, If you have a project at work, have something, build a project that's similar to what you need to do at work. Or if there's just something you want to learn, there are so many opportunities. There's so much sample data. There are all of these challenges and contests that you can participate in, for example. So just choose something and get your hands in there. You want to have hands-on practice, because the more you experiment and make mistakes, the faster you'll internalize this workflow and you'll develop these skills that you can use in a real project. So let's say you've gotten in there and you've had some frustrations, you're trying to figure something out, and you just can't figure out the answer. So this is where these community resources can come in. So there are tutorials, blogs, sample files, forums. You can join the Reddit community. I know that's very active, for example. And again, doing these contests. There's also, it's more Power BI, but there's Workout Wednesday, for example. You can look up Workout Wednesday and you can do some Power BI challenges. So anything that you're interested in doing, there's likely a community person who has built a tutorial or a blog, or there might even be a challenge out there. So just to highlight a few of these, here are some names of people that have lots of great content specifically on the DP600, for example, or on this role. So if you want to just look up some of these people on here, you'll see that they have loads of fantastic content. And you see Shabnam's name here. She's got some great content on some exam prep, for example. And like she mentioned earlier in the intro, she's got a book on analytics engineering. So I think we can get that link in the chat as well. What is the official title of your book, Shabnam?
It's called Analytics Engineering with Microsoft Fabric and Power BI. So
was that with Nicola?
With Nicola Illich, yes. So it's not finished yet. It's in early release. So the way it works is that if you're if you have access to O'Reilly platform, they let you read books as the authors are writing it. And the idea is that because the technology advances so fast, it lets you have access to the material sooner than later. And Fabric evolves with such a fast pace, so it's always a challenge with the book also, because we have to make changes as we go. But anyways, it's an early release, so it's not published yet. But appreciate the shout out there. I also in the community that you have members that you have listed there, I just wanted to mention that Alexei Partanen, and I was trying to put a link to his YouTube channel. I think Pam has and I can add it in there. He has a lot of training videos for the certifications as well, and Microsoft Fabric. Great content there.
Yes, fantastic. So again, just a real shout out to all of these community members who have created so much content to help us all both learn and prepare for these certification exams. So, all right, so you've built some things, you've solved some problems, you've had some challenges, you got your community resources. So now that you've done a few projects and you've leveraged your community resources, it's time to iterate and reflect, because this is where real growth happens. It's not linear, right? It's definitely cyclical. So you'll start simple, you'll get some feedback, and what happens to me a lot, I'll be walking my dog and I'll realize a different way I could solve the problem, and I'll be so excited to get back to my computer and jump back in. So, document what works and what doesn't. You will have some lessons learned, and this is the reflection that's going to help you replicate your successes and avoid repeated mistakes, and it will help you build your confidence. So the goal is not to master everything at once. You're just trying to have continuous learning through practice. And over time, this will allow you to build this solid foundation that will transfer across tools and will prepare you for the real work of being an analytics engineer. So let's talk about some career paths and some next steps. Again, there's no single path. Everyone's journey looks different. So I think I saw someone in the chat saying they work in a dental practice, for example. We come from all kinds of backgrounds. I spent many, many years in nonprofit. So we don't all have the same start. right? So all you really need is, curiosity, and you want to solve problems. And if you find this work at all fun, then I think you're going to be successful. Like for me, I just love it when I can solve a problem and make something work and make it faster. That's what, keeps me doing this all the time. So it doesn't matter what your background is. If you just get involved and you do these challenges and you learn and you get the skills, you're going to be fine on this path as well. So let's talk about some different paths. None of our careers look the same. We can start from analysis, engineering, business roles, it doesn't really matter. And our early experiences don't lock us in. They just give us more experience and knowledge, and just a different background that we can provide for other people. So try these different projects, these different roles and tools, and see what resonates with you and what fits your interests, your strengths, and where you're hoping to go. And focus on building skills, not the title that you hold. I mean, I'm sure if we could probably all have some laughs in the chat about, what our titles are versus what our jobs really are, right? So focus on what you can do and the skills that you want to learn, because employers care more about what you can do than what the title is. So if you have skills like data modeling, visualization, analytics workflows, these are transferable across roles. So you'll want to build your portfolio through projects, contests, contributions, again, because these are concrete experiences that speak louder than a job title. So finally, what are some different things you can do? You can seek mentorship, learn from others' experiences, or even just more community members. Just get involved, attend some events if you can, if they're in your area, and get yourself out there and talk to people. If you have a local user group, definitely go to that. Everybody is there on generally a volunteer basis. They're there because they want to help people. So it's a great way to meet people and learn from people that really do want to help you. If you don't have a local user group, that's okay too, because there are all of these online communities where people also want to help you. So just remember, take small steps, just try to build a project, learn new skills, allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from them, and tackle some challenges.
It's always, I love the local user groups because they just give me energy. I just get a lot of energy from going to these local user group events. Sometimes it's really hard to drag yourself to a user group meeting in the evening, or on weekends, like on a Saturday, to go join some of these free one-day events that they have. But it's always been worth it for me, because I'm always like, oh, why am I doing this to myself? I'm so tired. Do I really, sometimes I'm like, can I even learn anything when it's this late in the day and I'm tired? But then I go and I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually learned something. Even if it's just a little bit of something, it adds up over time. And then plus you get to meet other people who are doing jobs that are very similar to you, and then you talk to them, you hear their challenges, you learn that there is dirty data everywhere, so you're not just alone. So it's always good to hear from other people their challenges and how they're solving them, and just to socialize with them. So I love
fully
our
agree.
user groups. Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
And so I think, Shabnam, it's you now. Tell us more about
Yes,
what we can
yes.
expect.
So I think I'm just gonna go through a couple of closing slides, and then if you have a few minutes, we can answer any questions that are out there in the question section. So all right, so let's see what other things there are in the Fabric Data Day. So we saw the schedule earlier. By the way, this one was the first of the So You Want to something, right? So this was the first one. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. There is a bunch of others coming in the same format that's going to introduce you to the other roles, the other data roles. So you want to be a data analyst, you want to be a data engineer. And as we mentioned, there's always going to be an overlap between these roles. Usually there's not a clean cut there, especially if you're working on the smaller projects, smaller organizations. So make sure that you attend as many of these as you can, especially if you're new to the product or new to the certification path. And then if you take the challenges, again, the challenges are a way to motivate you to give yourself a time to finish a task. If you can take advantage of the challenges and the discounts, it makes it even easier to go ahead and take the certification, because a lot of people sometimes they're afraid to take the exam because they're afraid of failing the exam. But at least having a 100% discount voucher hopefully should make it easier and take some of that fear away so that you can go ahead and take the exam. All right, and here's the QR code one more time. And remember, when you scan this QR code, there's some requirements. So you have to mention that you watched one of these sessions, which hopefully all of you have done this one, or there's some other requirements. I believe you have to register for one of the challenges to be able to take this voucher, and there's a timeline to it. So you must commit to taking the exam by the end of this year. We also talked about the in a day events. I'm not going to talk about them anymore. I think we talked about this several times. Stephanie did a great job with that. And then finally, all the resources for Fabric in a Day event, not Fabric in a Day, my mind's still there, with the 50 days of Fabric Data Days is here in this link. And I think at this point, we can just stop and then for the few minutes that are left, answer any questions from our audience.
I see a question. How can I train/inform non-technical stakeholders about the benefits of Power BI and Microsoft Fabric? Some are change resistant, but other departments have seen measurable benefits. What do you think, Shabnam? What's a good way to show the benefits?
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's a really hard one, because you do want to have sponsorship in order for the project to be successful. So you definitely need to have the non-technical stakeholders back up your project. You mentioned that other departments have seen measurable benefits, so maybe get those departments to demo the benefits that they've got to your department, or the head of that department, maybe at a higher level, they can talk to your department and showcase what they've done. I mean, that internally should be a really good example for your department to follow. The other thing you can do is maybe you can do a POC and then show them what it's like and things they can get. Maybe you can even get them to try one of these Fabric in a Day events or some of the trainings to get them excited about it. Those are the ways I think about it. I mean, Stephanie, what would you do?
I think also find some kind of low-hanging fruit that maybe you could build fairly quickly. A good candidate I've always noticed is if you can find some manual process, some tedious process that somebody has to do, and maybe that can be, if not fully automated, maybe semi-automated in Fabric.
Yeah.
So maybe just a quick POC that's kind of a low-hanging fruit, and then maybe include a little wow factor too, So like, I don't know, something with Copilot or the new translytical task flows that allow you to do write back into into the database from Power BI, or just some kind of like something to make them gasp a little bit. That's what I like to go for. All
Yeah,
right.
I
Do we have any
agree. I
others?
agree. So let me see if our moderators, if you see any questions that we haven't answered or you have not answered, feel free to post them again.
Here's
Um,
one. For those who already got a certification, what resources exist to continue learning? I would say this is where these challenges and contests come in.
mhm.
Because they give you a starting point, and now that you've got the certification, you know how to do some things. I think it'll like spark some creativity for you. Um, and then you can share what you build through these challenges and contests. I think that's a great resource for continued learning, as well as learning from other people's
Also,
entries into these contests.
yes, also, if you want to learn, one of the best ways to learn is to present. So,
True.
yes, so prepare now that you've learned internally to your company or to your community, user group. Try to teach one of those topics to someone else or a new topic that you want to learn. That's one of the best ways for yourself to also grow.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. That definitely is what I did. I started speaking at local events and it terrified me. And I was really afraid of looking stupid, right? So I wanted to I wanted to make sure I knew the content inside and out. So that was a great way for me to learn.
Yeah. The although for those who are thinking about starting, your local user group is the friendliest place to start. The local user groups support new speakers, and their whole purpose is for the community. So that's a good place. And even if you're a new speaker, no one's going to expect you to be perfect and not make mistakes. So don't worry about sounding not so
Yes.
perfect. Yes.
Yep. 100%. Yep. Those are
Yes.
some great resources, good ideas. Um, and I don't see
Mm-hmm.
any others. So I would just say, make sure you continue to follow along with these data days, come to some more events, check out all of the opportunities that are available, and
Mhm.
we'll see you in the next one.
We have one last question. I just want to squeeze the answer to that one in. So someone asks about the user group. So a good place to find your user group is on the meetup. So you can search for whatever city is close to you, type the city, and then Power BI user group or Fabric user group. And that will bring up the meetups or search a meetup.
Good shout
And
out
that's
for that.
it. So hopefully everybody enjoyed this session, and hopefully you're going to join the rest of the store you want to be. And hopefully it's clear for everyone what an analytics engineer is.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining, and thanks again to our speakers. This session is part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you at the next one.